Book nibbles. Big ideas, small bites. When people watch elite athletes perform, there's often a sense of awe that feels almost supernatural. The towering slam dunk, the effortless home run, the sprinter who seems to fly down the track. It looks like magic, but David Epstein's The Sports Gene, Inside the Science of Extraordinary Athletic Performance, insists that behind the spectacle lies a complex web of biology, environment, training, and chance. For decades, the conversation about athletic greatness has swung between two poles. Is it nature, written in DNA, or nurture, built by practice and determination? Epstein dives into the latest science to reveal that the answer is both and neither, more complicated than slogans like hard work beats talent or born gifted. He takes readers on a journey across continents, from Olympic tracks to remote highlands, showing how genes and environments intertwine in ways that shape extraordinary performance. The book begins with the question of training. A popular mantra in sports and business is the 10,000-hour rule, popularized by Malcolm Gladwell, which claims that mastery in any domain requires about 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. The story often cited is of violinists or chess players whose relentless practice separated the best from the rest. But Epstein quickly complicates this story when he looks at athletics. Unlike in music or chess, where fine motor skills and accumulated knowledge dominate, sports combine skill with physiology, body structure, muscle fiber types, oxygen processing capacity, traits deeply influenced by genetics. In some sports, no amount of practice will overcome a lack of biological predisposition. He gives the example of high jumpers who, with minimal formal training, can leap heights that other athletes train years to achieve. In such cases, the body itself provides a head start that practice alone can't manufacture. One striking example is the story of Donald Thomas, a Bahamian basketball player who casually entered a college high jump competition on a bet. Having never practiced high jumping seriously, he cleared extraordinary heights simply by relying on his natural spring. His Achilles tendon was unusually long, giving him an enormous biomechanical advantage. While most athletes require meticulous training to fine-tune their technique, Thomas's body allowed him to vault nearly 7.5 feet with little coaching. This doesn't mean practice is irrelevant. He eventually had to learn proper form, but it illustrates how genetic endowment can vault someone far ahead instantly. It also highlights the central theme of the book. Practice and training matter enormously, but they interact with genetic gifts that can't be taught. Epstein explores muscle fibers to illustrate why some people seem naturally faster or stronger. Muscles are composed of fast-twitch and slow-twitch fibers. Fast-twitch fibers fire quickly, producing explosive power but fatiguing rapidly. Slow-twitch fibers fire more slowly but are highly resistant to fatigue, fueling endurance. Genetic variation determines the ratio each person has. Elite sprinters like Usain Bolt possess an abundance of fast-twitch fibers, giving them bursts of speed unmatched by others, while elite marathoners often have slow-twitch dominant muscles that allow them to maintain pace for hours. Training can shift fibers somewhat, but only within limits. No amount of practice will make a slow-twitch dominant athlete into a world-class sprinter. This is one of the uncomfortable truths. There are real biological ceilings. Yet, recognizing them allows athletes to align their efforts with the sports that fit their natural builds. From fibers, Epstein moves to blood and oxygen. He recounts how the Finnish skier Eero Mantarinta dominated cross-country skiing in the 1960s. Later genetic analysis revealed that Mantarinta carried a mutation in the EPOR gene, which caused his body to naturally produce excess red blood cells. This gave him 25 to 50% more oxygen-carrying capacity than normal humans. Essentially, his body provided a natural version of blood doping. No training could replicate this advantage. He was biologically primed for endurance. What made Mantarinta's story fascinating is that his family carried the same gene, with multiple relatives excelling in endurance sports. This demonstrated how a single genetic mutation could ripple across generations to produce unusual athletic potential. Geography and culture also play a profound role. One of the most discussed phenomena in sports is the dominance of Kenyan runners, particularly from the Kalenjin ethnic group. Epstein investigates why this small population produces a staggering number of world-class distance runners. The explanation is multifactorial. Biologically, many Kalenjin have slender lower legs, which reduce the metabolic cost of running by lowering the weight at the extremities. Culturally, children in this region often run long distances to school, developing endurance from an early age. Environmentally, growing up at high altitude increases red blood cell efficiency, priming the body for endurance. Together, these factors create a perfect storm for distance running. Importantly, not every Kenyan is a great runner, but the population pool tilts the odds. When combined with motivation, opportunity, and role models, it produces extraordinary dominance. Epstein also explores the flip side, sports where sheer body size or unusual builds act as gatekeepers. Basketball players are overwhelmingly tall. Professional sumo wrestlers are overwhelmingly massive. In these sports, there are biological minimums. A person 5 feet tall, regardless of heart, skill, or dedication, will not become an NBA center. Height, wingspan, and body proportions simply dictate possibilities. He recounts how NBA players often have wingspans far longer than expected for their height, giving them reach advantages that go unnoticed by casual observers. These are examples of traits that are not trainable. Likewise, in baseball, vision acuity, the ability to track a 95-mile-per-hour pitch is enhanced in some players with extremely sharp eyesight. Training reflexes helps, but the raw sensory ability often sets the stage. The book also tackles the debate over specialization versus generalization. In many cultures, children are pushed early into one sport with the idea that early specialization is necessary for greatness. Epstein challenges this with evidence that many elite athletes were samplers in youth, playing multiple sports before focusing later. Sampling exposes the body to diverse movements, preventing overuse injuries and broadening physical literacy. Tiger Woods is often cited as an example of early specialization, starting golf at age 2. But Epstein contrasts him with Roger Federer, who played many sports before focusing on tennis in his teens, suggesting there are multiple paths. The lesson is that early specialization is not the only road. In fact, it can backfire by limiting overall development. Genetics also interacts with perception of pain and motivation. Some athletes have gene variants that affect dopamine receptors, influencing how they experience reward and persistence. Others may have higher tolerance for lactic acid buildup, allowing them to push through discomfort. Epstein describes studies where cyclists with certain genetic profiles could sustain higher output despite accumulating fatigue. It's not just mental toughness in the vague sense, but biology influencing how the brain processes strain. Yet mindset still matters. Athletes who reframe pain as information rather than suffering often perform better. Thus, biology and psychology intertwine. Gender and genetics create further complexity. Men and women differ in muscle mass, hemoglobin levels, and hormonal influences, leading to performance gaps in many sports. Yet, Epstein shows that these differences are nuanced. For example, in ultra-endurance events, the gap narrows because fat metabolism and fatigue resistance sometimes favor women. He describes female athletes who excel in 100-mile races, challenging assumptions about male dominance. Genetics sets some baselines, but within them, culture and opportunity shape outcomes. One of the book's strengths is its stories of outliers, athletes who defy averages in surprising ways. Consider the baseball player who excelled despite poor vision by anticipating pitches based on subtle cues, or the blind mountain climber who scaled Everest, relying on heightened non-visual senses. These stories remind readers that while genetics and physiology matter, creativity, adaptation, and determination remain powerful forces. The sports gene is not destiny but probability. Outliers show the possibilities when humans stretch beyond expectations. Epstein also explores technology and its impact. High-speed cameras and biomechanical analysis allow scientists to study technique in exquisite detail. Coaches can now tailor training to individual bodies, maximizing efficiency. Genetic testing is also emerging, though with caution. Some companies market tests promising to identify children's sports potential, but Epstein warns these are simplistic. A single gene rarely dictates success. It is the interaction of thousands of genes with environment that matters. Reducing athletic potential to a swab is misleading and potentially harmful. Perhaps the most important lesson from the book is humility. For athletes, recognizing genetic advantages or disadvantages can help channel effort wisely. A person with a stocky build may never be a champion sprinter, but could excel in powerlifting. Someone with long limbs may struggle at gymnastics, but shine in swimming. Rather than chasing impossible dreams, aligning passion with physiology opens realistic paths to fulfillment. At the same time, for spectators, the book encourages appreciation. When we watch Olympic athletes, we're not just seeing training hours, but the convergence of rare biology, opportunity, and relentless dedication. It is not to diminish their effort, but to acknowledge the extraordinary intersection of factors. Epstein is careful to avoid fatalism. He stresses that genes are not a fixed script, but part of a dynamic system. Training can enhance or suppress genetic tendencies. Opportunity and environment open doors or close them. Motivation and culture can make the difference between talent realized and talent wasted. Genetics sets the stage, but the play is written through lived experience. The stories of athletes illustrate this balance vividly. The natural jumper who had to learn technique. The genetically advantaged skier who still trained relentlessly. The Kenyan runners whose environment and culture magnified their genetic predispositions. The late-blooming athletes who, without early talent, built themselves into champions through persistence. Each story complicates the easy narratives of either born gifted or practice makes perfect. Reality is messier, more fascinating, and more inspiring. By the end, readers come away with a richer understanding of human potential. The sports gene dismantles myths while celebrating the extraordinary variety of athletic talent. It shows that greatness is not simply inborn nor simply earned. It is the fusion of biology, environment, and will. Epstein's exploration is as much about humanity as it is about sports, revealing how differences in bodies, brains, and backgrounds shape what is possible. Watching a sprinter explode from the blocks or a marathoner glide mile after mile becomes even more awe-inspiring when you appreciate the unseen forces that make it possible. In sum, The Sports Gene is not a book about limits, but about complexity. It urges us to respect biology, embrace diversity, and recognize that behind every extraordinary performance lies a unique tapestry of genes, training, culture, and choice. The magic of sports is not that anyone can become an Olympian, but that within each body lies potential waiting to be discovered, expressed differently, uniquely, and often unpredictably. And perhaps the greatest takeaway is that whether you are an elite athlete, a weekend runner, or a parent guiding a child, understanding the interplay of nature and nurture allows you to pursue performance with both realism and wonder. And that's it. David Epstein's The Sports Gene, inside the science of extraordinary athletic performance. Thanks for listening to Book Nibbles. If you enjoyed this bite-sized book, don't forget to subscribe for more quick, insightful summaries. See you in the next nibble.